Now, we have to be very, very careful in terms of the implications of agriculture's contribution to GDP. Despite the low contribution to GDP, agriculture is a very, very important employer, particularly in rural areas. And the agricultural sector is much more able to absorb unskilled and semi-skilled labor. So even though the share of employment is less than 6%, this actually fails to capture the full picture, because in the agricultural sector, you also have seasonal workers and you also have small-scale subsistence farming in rural communities. So the real contribution to an economy is much greater than those numbers would indicate. Agriculture in South Africa is also a significant foreign exchange generator. So the agricultural sector becomes important to the economy as a whole because a lot of companies need it. Their backward linkages, for instance, in the manufacturing sector, companies producing fertilizer and chemicals, which wouldn't exist if the agricultural sector wasn't there. There are also forward linkages as well. Companies in manufacturing, where they use agricultural products as inputs or feedstock for things like processed foods or packaging. So despite its small contribution of 3%, the agricultural sector is critical and absolutely important. So let me illustrate why agriculture contributes so little to GDP with a very, very simplistic example. I use a quality phone, an iPhone. I don't use these other Mickey Mouse brands, Samsung, Huawei, Nokia. Those are for the common people. I use a quality iPhone, right? Just giving you guys a hard time. Now, if I had to walk into a shop and buy this iPhone, how much would I pay for it? Let's just assume I'd pay 12,000 Mac dollars. Yeah? 12,000 Mac dollars. That's how much I would pay for this phone. So if we had to simplify this, and I'm really simplifying it, and Apple had their operations, their manufacturing and design operations in South Africa, we could say this phone simplistically contributes 12,000 Mac dollars to GDP. One phone, simplifying it. How many tons of maize would you have to grow and sell to generate 12,000 Mac dollars? Any guesses? It's at least 3 tons. You'd have to grow and sell 3 to 4 tons of maize for generation of 12,000 Mac dollars. That's a hell of a lot of maize. So the point I'm making is not a judgment or a value-based observation. It's a point on value. Because an iPhone is a value-added product, it makes a much larger contribution as a single unit. Whereas if you are producing something that is a commodity, which may be important, but it's a bulk commodity, you need a lot more maize to generate the equivalent contribution to GDP as an iPhone. It's just looking at the numbers. We're not saying maize is not important or the agricultural sector is not important. We're saying its contribution to GDP ends up being quite small because the other sectors, if you use currencies or monetary terms, actually contribute a lot more by way of value.